Just say that since we are looking on we are doing the consumer behavior, and the same topic I remember I said, um, it is the same as the macro and the intermediate. Under let me just check something here so that I can deliberate or explain. Under the intermediate microeconomics, I remember yesterday being in a position to explain based on the core delivery plan, which is already shared with you. When you look on there is a topic here called the consumer surplus, discusses about the concept of utility, the difference curves, consumer choice, and so on and so forth. It is similar to the macroeconomics where we are discussing about the theory of the consumer behavior. But when you look on the same course outline, there is a consumer theory. And after we complete this, we'll be able to check on the aspects of the supply and demand analysis where one of us, like Bella, we were able to discuss some few elements today regarding to the supply and demand analysis. And when you look at it, it is already applicable to both. And the questions which I saw are sharing with me are mostly coming from that topic, and we'll be able to do more of the questions once we finish the analysis of the syllabus which we are dealing with. So we are not supposed to be even having any worries, because whatever we are tackling right now, it should be sinking in your minds. Don't forget the aspects which are very important to your exams. So mostly we are putting ourselves in a worry ground rather than looking on what we have to be doing or what are we supposed to be covering right now. Because still, regardless of the challenges which I've faced to teach you guys, we still have, and I still have the responsibility of making sure I finish up on anything. But I don't know whether the intermediate microeconomics, they don't have the cards. I have not seen anyone say sharing any card with me. That is different from the introduction to microeconomics, where I can be able to say right now we have already tackled two cards. So I don't know how you are doing your exams without even being given one card. But as we soldier on, it is very important for us to understand the matter regarding to the marginal utilities. And this is something that we were able to discuss yesterday. And those who are in class were able to see what we were discussing about it, right? We said under the marginal utility, we said when you look on it, I can see someone, we have already received certain cuts for intermediate. And if there is any cut, by the way, always share it on our WhatsApp so that I just work on it and then I share with you. The most important thing, and what I have already, or I will be able to advocate, is once we perform well in those cuts, there is no any aspect, even in the exams, you're going to be looking for 20, or you're going to be looking for a very small marks to score an A. So it is very important we take the cuts seriously. So when you look on the economics aspects, the marginal utility will be able to describe the change in utility of one unit of a good or service. And we remember being in a position to explain and said that the marginal utility can be positive, it can be negative or zero. For example, when we are going to be eating our pizza, the second piece may bring more satisfaction than the first one, indicating positive marginal utilities. And when you look on these aspects, we have to be understanding the concept where we are saying, what is and that is where we broke down. We say, can we be able to break down these aspects of satisfaction to something called utiles? And now, when you look at it, the utility is based on the satisfaction resulting from the consumption of one unit of a good or service. And we said, when you look on when you are consuming that pizza, you are going to be looking on the third piece. And when you're looking on the third piece of that pizza, we are saying that the satisfaction levels continue to decrease, indicating zero even negative marginal utilities. And when you look on a negative marginal utility, it basically implies that every additional unit consumed causes more harm than good, leading to the decrease in overall utility. And in contrast, when you look on the positive marginal utilities, it basically indicates that every additional unit consumed increases overall utility. And that is where we discussed about the law of diminishing marginal utilities. And the law basically, if I can be able to break it down, we say that the first unit of consumption of a good or service yield more satisfaction. When you're consuming more, the first unit, ukienda saizi, and I say like how ladies, they like tea, right? That cafe. Or when we look on the men, when they go to take their beers, the first beers, for example, 2 or 3, they are going to be bringing more satisfaction than when this guy is going to be consuming even 7 bottles and so on and so forth. And that is why we are saying that, and there is a continued reduction in satisfaction or utility for greater amounts. The most you are going to be continuing, or the more you continue consuming a given product, it means the satisfaction continue decreasing. That is what we discussed about the law of diminishing marginal utility. But as consumption, and I say that this idea is used by economics to determine the optimal quantity of a goods or service that a consumer is willing to purchase. And that is why here, can we be able to look on the importance of the law of equal marginal utility, right? Let me see, someone was discussing something. Someone is asking me, we already received a card for intermediate microeconomics, and I'm only doing intermediate. I'm seeing this as an introduction to micro. And I said yesterday, if you look on the notes, we are just using the notes. We cannot be able to use these notes and then we shift to other notes, right? These notes, basically, we are using them because if you compare the 2 documents, I was able to compare the documents between the macro and intermediate. And when you look on the notes, which are simple to understand, they are for the introduction compared to the intermediate. Mwalimu hapo amewachanga kidogo, but it is the same content. They don't have any differences between the consumer surplus and the theory of the consumer behavior. That is what I discussed yesterday. There is a topic here under the introduction to microeconomics. It is a topic of its own, discussing about the demand and supply, which you are going to be finding it different when you are going to the intermediate, because when you go there, you'll be able to find we have a subtopic called the demand and supply. So it is the same thing, but basically, how do we normally tackle it? It's like let me just explain in terms of when you are doing for example, CPA, you normally realizes that there are topics which are still on the lower unit. For example, the management accounting under the undergraduate, we call it the introduction to management accounting. And then when we advance a bit to the advanced level, you normally find there is a topic called there is a unit called advanced management accounting. Then there is a topic which is basically discussed between the 2, called the decision theory. Then the way you teach is under the management accounting on the lower level. The way you are going to be teaching is under the advanced level. Those are the same concepts. You can pick the students of the intermediate to mix with for the advanced. They are going to be learning the same and the same concepts. No difference there. So you cannot tell me that, Mwalimu, can you be able to do the macro alone and then we do intermediate, discussing about the consumer surplus, and then the other class being able to discuss about the consumer behavior, the theory of consumer behavior. It is the same thing. You can be able to go and prove me wrong on that. Now, when you look on the importance of the law of equal marginal utility, number 1, we are saying it is application in consumption. And we are saying a consumer can achieve maximum satisfaction when utility of different commodities is equal, seeing the objective is to achieve maximum satisfaction. In this case also, number 2, we are saying application of in production, and we are saying that the objective of a farm is to maximize profits achieved when cost of production is minimal and when marginal productivity of all factors is equal. I think these ones I was able to explain them. Number 3, we are talking about the application is in distribution, and when share of different factors of production are determined, they are determined according to the principle of marginal utility. Then number 4, we are saying application in saving and spending. And a special part of the income is spent on the purchase of consumer goods, and the remaining is saved for the future use. For example, when we are taking this family out there, for example, this is a work for ladies now. We are taking the family out. So they have gone to take the children to have fresh air somewhere and change the diet. Sometimes we normally ask our children, what do you miss and what do you want to eat right now? And they will be able to give specifications of what they want to eat. But if you buy it in plenty, for instance, if you can be able to afford and you buy it in plenty, you'll be able to realize the moment they started taking the product, right? That is what the marginal utility is all about. When they started taking the product, they were in need of it. And once they were taking, you could see the level of satisfaction because they could be in a position to afford it. But in long run, when they continue eating or they continue consuming that product, in long run, you'll be able to find that they even leave it on the table when they leave. That it means that as the level of satisfaction continued, the level of satisfaction being attained, it means the demand of the consumption of that product continue decreasing. They will not be able to eat it more, and sometimes they may leave it and they go away. That is what we discuss about the marginal utility. But if you look on that video of our previous class, when we were discussing about the differences between the ordinal, or that is what we call it, the different curve approach. We say that this school of thought is opposed to the law of utility and is measurable through the cardinal numbers. And this school, we are saying, of thought maintains that consumer behavior can be explained in terms of preferences, so that consumers need to state the commodity they prefer without assigning numeral values without the strength of their preferences. So consumers are expected to value their preferences of the entire service market of goods and service in order to choose. For example, we are going to be looking on the combination of two goods that can be chosen if the two goods are ranked. And in this case, we are saying here, this is explained by the use of different curves. But very important aspect here is to ask ourselves, what is an indifference curve, right? What is an indifference curve? And we are saying that when we look on the aspect of a different curve, it means that the different curves will be able to show you a combination of two goods in various quantities that provides equal satisfaction. And that is where the utility aspect. When you look on the utility, it means we look on what is the pleasure we normally get when we consume a given product to an individual, for instance. So it basically, when it is used in economics, the difference curves, basically when it is used in economics, it means to describe the point where individuals have no particular preference for either one good or another based on their relative quantities. Now, and in this case, that is where here we are saying the following assumptions of this approach are: number 1, the price of goods is constant. Number 2, consumers are rational. Number 3, consumer can rank his or her preference over time. Then number 4, their behavior must be transitive. That is, if a consumer prefers A to B to C, for instance, then it can prefer A to C, axiom of transitivity. And that is the thing I think I was able to discuss it yesterday. Number 5, the satisfaction transitivity is what we talk about, the axiom. Number 5, we talk about the consumer always prefer more to less of every commodity. Number 6, the slope of indifference curves gives the marginal rate of situation. Number 7, we talk about the consumer is able to order all the available combination, right? That is why nasikia mtu akisema nipe kuku, unipe chipu, sijui unipe nini. You know that we men, we don't like those things. So we don't like much of snacks. So I think that utapata tu jamaa anapenda tu kula ugali throughout. Yeye anapenda tu ugali with any combination you are going to be giving him or her. Him, sorry. So that when you look on the combination in most cases, you cannot tell me ni kule ugali peke yake. There must be a combination of it. And that is what we discuss about the axiom of completeness. So what is an indifference curves under your notes here? We are saying this is a curve joining together or different combination of two goods that yield the same amount of utility to a consumer. It is a locus or point or possible combination of two alternative goods that will be able to yield the same level of utility. So the shape of indifference curve is called the marginal rate of situation, right? The marginal rate of situation. And we are saying the rate at which, right? The marginal rate of situation we are saying that the rate at which good Y can be substituted for by good X, leaving the consumer the same level of satisfaction. And in this case, when you look, it normally bends downwards, right? It normally bends downwards. We are looking on the combination of two commodities. And in this case, we are looking on the difference curves running from the upper side. It is normally curved downwards, right? It is a convex towards the origin. That is what I'm supposed to be putting it. So in this case, when you look on the difference curves, for example, here we are taking three difference curves, and we are saying this difference map you are seeing indicate the different difference curves drawn on the same plane price with different level of utilities. And in this case, basically, we just need to be understanding what is the marginal rate of substitution. And when you look at the marginal rate of substitution, it is just the quantity of one good that a consumer can forego for additional units of another good at the same utility level. There is a time which we may tend to take a different product. Someone can go to an hotel, tuseme Catherine ameitisha chai, the normal one. Tuseme Sheila, for instance, ameenda ameitisha coffee. There is another one anasema, no, I just need Somali kahawa, and so on and so forth. It means we just take what we need to consume, and what is going to be giving us the level of satisfaction is what matters. That is what normally describes the issue of the marginal rate of substitution. And in this case, when you're looking at these difference curves, you need to be understanding that these difference curves basically is just a chart showing various combinations of two goods or commodities that consumer can be able to choose, right? There must be a problem here. The meeting is ending at 10 minutes. Let me see what is happening here. Be able to see, so no problem with that. So at any point on the curve, the combination of the two will leave the consumer equally well off or equally satisfied, hence indifferent. That is what we look on the indifferent curves. It's very important if you can be able to understand what are some of these indifference curves which we just need to put into consideration when we just want to understand it. When you look on these properties as provided, it is very important first to understand what is a utility and when an individual will be able to consume goods or services. The satisfaction gain or loss from the consumption is what we normally call the utility, right? That is what we are saying, that a difference map indicate difference curves drawn on the same plane price with different levels of utility. And in that case, we are saying the consumer preferences are defined by the consumption bundles that the consumers will be able to face. And that collection of the bundle is what normally we talk about maximization of the consumer's total utility. Given the consumer's budget constraints, 1 unit of utility is what we normally call it a utile. Now, when you look on these aspects of the properties of the different curves, right? The properties of the different curves. One, you will be able to find, because I just want to expound it for better understanding before we engage. We are saying that when you look on the properties of the different curves, you just need to understand, and when you look on that graph of ours, is that the different curves will never cross, right? That is one of the properties. You can just put it that way. And if they could cross, it would create large amount of ambiguity at so as to what the true utility is. These curves will never cross, right? And when you look on another property, which you can, I just want to give them in a summarization form. We are talking about the difference. When you look on the further out, the difference further out of a difference curve lies is because they normally bend towards the origin. And when you look at it, we are saying that the higher the level of utility it indicates. And in that case, when you look on the, as indicated above there, on the difference curve map, which is already displayed, you can see that the more utility the individual generates while consuming a product. Now, when you look on another property, which I will be able to put it in this manner, is that the difference curves slope downwards. And the only way an individual can increase consumption in one good without gaining utility is to consume another good and generate the same amount of utility. That is the utility we're discussing about, the point of satisfaction. Then the other one, property. There might be so many, but a different curve assume a convex shape. You can see how they look. They assume a convex shape. Then that is where I say they convex towards the origin. And we are saying, as based on how it is being illustrated above there, it illustrates that all the individuals experience diminishing marginal utility, where additional consumption of one good will generate a less amount of utility than the prior. And let me just get it in a very quick way. We are saying difference as a negative slope, and you can see it. This shows if the quality of one good, say, decrease the quality of other good, must increase if the consumers to remain in the same level of satisfaction. Number two, if difference curve do not intersect. I remember I was able to discuss about this. This is because if they did, the point of intersection implies two level satisfaction, which is not possible. You can be able to consider the graph which is already there. Then number three, here we are saying they are convex to the origin, and that is what I was able to discuss. You can see the graph of it there. Once we log out, I'm anticipating we have only 5 minutes. I don't know what has happened with my Zoom. I will be able to check on this later, but that cannot be. Once we log out, we just log in. Now, the theory of diminishing marginal rate of substitute expresses the observed behavior that as people consume more of a good, the utility they gain from each excessive unit decline. As the number of the unit of X the consumer is or will sacrifice in order to obtain additional unit of Y, decrease of the quantity of Y rises. Therefore, it is difficult to substitute X for Y. The consumer consume more of Y and vice versa. What is a consumer equilibrium? And to explain the concept of the consumer equilibrium, the price of the two commodities should be given as well as the consumer's income so as to derive the budget line. So what is a budget line? It is a curve or a line showing a combination of two goods, showing a combination of two goods that can be afforded with a given level of income. And we are seeing a consumer will be at equilibrium where the budget line is at a tangent to an indifference curve. So how does a tangent line look like, right? It runs from X to Y, and you can see it cuts across, it normally cuts across the indifference curve. You can see the budget line there. Okay. So in this case, when you're discussing about a budget line, it's just a graphical representation, and you can be able to see it there of all possible combination of two goods which can be purchased with a given income and prices. And so that the cost of each of these combination is equal to the money income of the consumer. Sometimes, normally here you go somewhere to eat, and you say whatever I have taken doesn't equate to the amount which I've spent in that spent to buy that particular product. That is what the budget, and you can see how it is easy even to master it. The budget line will be able to cut across. It will be able to, the difference curves will be able to bend on the budget lines. The budget line normally runs from Y to X, and in this case you can see how it looks like. So in this case we are saying point B, and you can see it there. It is the equilibrium where the consumer is maximizing the utility subject to his budget constraint. And we are saying at point A, the consumer has unutilized income and cannot derive maximum satisfaction. Point C is unattainable since the consumer's income is limited by the marginal rate of substitution. At the point B, which is also the slope of the budget line, that is not something that is hard to understand. It is not hard to understand. Now, let us look on the income consumption curve. And increase in consumption, consumer income leads to the upward shift in the budget line so that it remains parallel to the original one and vice versa. Income consumption curve is a locus of points of consumer equilibrium, resulting when only the consumer income is varied or the consumer income changes. It is also referred to as effects on an income change. So the income consumption curve can be used to derive the Edge-O curve, which is illustrated below, right? Which is at an amount of goods a consumer will purchase per unit of time at various level of income, holding the price constant. So let me just stop at that point. We are almost logging out. But I can be, before we log out, I can be able to explain to you what is an Edge-O curve. And when you look on the Edge-O curves, they basically describe the households, how the household expenditure on a particular good or service varies with household income. And basically, there are only two varieties of Edge-O curves. In this case, we are saying that the budget share Edge-O curve describe how the proportion of household income spent on a good varies with the income. When you look on these aspects of the Edge-O curves, we'll be able to understand that under these microeconomics, the Edge-O curves basically explain much about the household expenditures based on the particular products or products. Some people will go to Gikomba to buy a product. There are others who says, I normally buy mine at Eastleigh and so on and so forth. So the budget share Edge-O curve describes how the proportion of household income spent on a good varies with income. Alternatively, when you look at it, the Edge-O curves can also be described on how the real expenditures varies with household income. I'm just expecting you to come back here because we are almost logging out. The Edge-O curves, I'll just be able to check on what is the problem later on. So you can see here we are discussing about these Edge-O curves, and we are saying that the income consumption curve can be used to derive the Edge-O curve, which illustrates the amounts of a good consumer will purchase per unit of time at various level of income, holding the price constant. And that is why I was giving an example. When you look on the consumption, you'll be able to realize that there are those people who like to buy their products on certain areas and localities, but these products are not similar. Whereas I'm buying them from Gikomba, I'm buying them from any other place, they are going to be giving us the same level of satisfaction. But the prices, when you look on it, it normally depends on the level of income, because the matches you have, it means that the areas you cannot be able to access. So that is what we are looking at it here on these Edge-O curves. And you can see we are describing about the level of incomes here, right? We have the income 1, income 0, we have income 2, and we have to be looking on the what normally applies to the increase in income and the decrease of these incomes. And here is what we have been told. Under this illustration, illustration of a different curve for perfect substitute and perfect complementary goods. So this assumption that the difference curves are convex to the original imply that the goods are substitutes, but not perfect substances. In case goods are perfect substitutes, the difference curves are represented by a straight line with negative slope parallel to one another. And we are saying for perfect substitutes, goods, for perfect substitute goods, the marginal rate of substitution is constant. Complementary goods have a difference curves that are L-shaped if only they are perfect complements. And you can see here, when you're having the perfect complements, how the difference curves normally looks like. And you can see these are just the graphs which are simply easy to master. So in this case, when you look at the perfect substitutes, it means that from point A, B, and C are the same difference curves, and the point A and B and C are here. Can you see them? Right. So let us see what it means. And we have been told that the A, B, and C are on the same difference curve. Yet at point C, it involves the same amount of commodity Y, but more of commodity X than at point B. This implies that the consumer is saturated with commodity Y, and therefore the marginal rate of substitution is equal to 0 for both X and Y. Similar case applies to at point A, involving same amount of X and more of commodity Y, indicating that the consumer is saturated with commodities X, and therefore the marginal rate of substitution of X and Y is equal to 0. This is what implies here, right? Because these things are running to the origin from these are the perfect substitutes, and you can see how the curves are looking like. They are on an L shape. And that is what we are explaining between what does it applies to point A, B, and C, and what does it implies to the commodities which you are consuming. And that is why here we are saying that they normally follow the aspect of the marginal rate of substitution, right, for both products. So when you look on the similar cases which we are saying at point A, we are saying it will be able to involve the same amount of X and more of commodity of Y, which will be able to indicate that the consumer will be saturated with more of X than what is supposed to be on Y. And this indicates that as much as we continue consuming these substitute products, we might be getting the same level of satisfaction. So application of the difference curves, which are very important. Number one, we are saying that it provides an explanation of the underlying reasons why change in price will be able to lead to change in the quantity demanded by distinguishing between substitution and income effects or price change. Number two, it enables the derivation to derive to normal and abnormal demand curve through the price consumption curves. Then it is applied in labor economics to measure the trade-off between income and leisure. Then the other one, it is used to examine the welfare effect of a different government policy, like taxes, subsidies for comparative welfare effect of direct and indirect taxes. Then number five, it enables assessment of the impact of change in the cost of living on welfare. For example, the effect of change in money, income, and price of the welfare can be analyzed as indicated above there. That is what you just need to get from the demand and supply. Sorry, not the demand, but from the theory of consumer behavior, or from the theory from the consumer surplus, as indicated in your syllabus. Now, I can be able also to see there are some of the questions which you can be able to use for revisions here. And these questions are already attached down here. You can just be able to, and there is no any way an examiner is going to be, it's going to be taking or getting any of the questions which they are going to be asking you. But what is very important is that we need to be understanding that the concept which we are using here straight away will be assisting us, and how we are going to be revising will be very critical to us. So that is why we need the hakuna mahali pengine examiner. What I can be able to borrow from the other areas of CPA is just the questions, the mathematical questions, but the theory is just the same thing. The questions in the when you look on the CPA aspect, you'll be able to look on the explanation. We are going just to be having a direct question like explain the law of diminishing marginal rate of substitution, and what does this mean the price line? How does it change? These are the things that are already existing in your notes. You can just be able to master them. I will not be able to say just cram as I will not be able to say that. Now, and I think this might be the second sharing topic of demand and supply. Demand and supply here might be another topic which you both are sharing. And when you look at it, these are the things which we are experiencing today. What is happening to the demand of our product and so on? And these questions are here, Rosbella, and you can be able to see them, the ones that you are asking me today. So once we pass through this topic, you are supposed to be answering those questions even without asking. You are prepared to answers. So I will be able to do them most probably in our next class, but let me just introduce the demand and supply to you. And this is not something that is so hard. When you want to analyze the issues of economics, it is practical. What, for instance, our country is experiencing right now is the people in the C2 are lying to us, thinking that we don't understand the magnitude of what is happening globally. You can see people are discussing different concepts in regards to the issue of the price increase of the commodities. And if you can be able to follow it very closely, you'll be able to find that the government was able to lose around 1 billion in revenue collection for this fuel, because as more and more increase in the price of these the prices of these fuel continue increasing, people will choose the alternatives. One, people may tend now to use solar as a form of power. And the second thing is that the people might be looking for a substitute for these cars which we are using. Someone might tend to use, rather than using a car which is going to be giving that person much of dissatisfaction in terms of prices, that person may tend to use electric car or electric bicycles, and so those people are still surviving. And basically the increase in the price is basically the increase in the prices normally tend to be analyzed based on the availability of that commodity in the market. Those are the things which we need to be understanding very clearly. And the theory of demand and supply will be able to enable us to understand the determination of the prices and the quantities in different markets. And that is why we are being given examples there. Why the price of the agricultural commodities such as tomatoes, apples, mangoes, cabbages increase and decrease at certain times of the year? Why have the price of computers, music systems, the television sets been steadily declining over time? And an understanding of the working of the price system provides us with the answers to some of these questions. So the price system provides the basis for determining the price of the factors of production. And the factor of production right now, you know, what do I mean? So what is the definition of a demand? And when you look on a demand, refer to the quantity of a commodity that consumers are willing and able to purchase at any given price over a given period of time. It is very important to realize that a demand is not the same thing as want, need, or desire. Only when want is supported by the ability and willingness to pay the price does it become an effective demand and have an influence on the market prices. You need to be having a desire. Like you ladies, you normally have desires for things that you have seen, right? You want that product, and it will be becoming a demand if, for example, it is going to be supported by your ability based on how it is going to be fitting to you and willingness to be able to meet the price of that commodity. And that is what we are discussing. You are going to be achieving the effective demand in the market price. Hence, demand in economics means effective demand. It is different from desire. in that it has to be supported by the ability to purchase the product. Now, the price of a commodity is most important factor or determinant of demand. All factors affecting demand other than the price are referred to as conditions for demand. While when you analyze the relationship between the price and quantity of demand, economists assume that all factors affecting demand will be able to remain constant. But an individual demand for a given good can be represented in a form of demand schedule. A demand schedule is a table showing the quantity of a commodity that can be purchased at various prices. Can you be able to see? As the price of the product continue decreasing, the consumer's weekly demand continue increasing. And that is the case. I remember when the UNGA was trading at some time, when the government was setting something called the price ceilings. Do you know what is a price ceiling, Rosbella? What is a price ceiling?
At maximum.
So the price ceilings, we normally say that a price ceiling is a government or group imposed price control on how high a price is charged for a product, commodity, or service. So that is where you normally find government normally use the price ceilings to protect consumers from conditions that could make commodities prohibitively expensive, right? That is the price ceilings. The government normally tries to put a price ceiling to cushion the consumers. That is different from the price floor. And when you look on the price floor, it is just a government, the same again, who normally want to cushion the suppliers, right? They normally want to cushion the suppliers. For example, it is happening to certain product like that one for the fuel. If the matters which have been discussed by the government is true, it means that the government will be able to say the lowest price at which a product can be sold. And in that case, it means that the minimal price is going to be set to ensure that the product is not, or the consumers, not the consumer, but the suppliers are yet on, they are not going to be affected. It is very important to understand the two, because you can be able to see when the government was selling the UNGA at 69 or something, you could go to the supermarket, you find that they are not there. And then people started becoming cartels. They used to now to anapigia supermarket and nieke bundle moja. You go there, you form a relationship with the people who are inside there, and then they will be able to broker that UNGA for you. And that is why you normally find the subsidized UNGA. There are people who never gotten them. That is why you see if the price of the commodity decreases, the consumption, the consumer's weekly demand increases. Now, and that is where we are saying a demand schedule can be represented in a form of a graph known as demand curve. And in this case, when you look on a demand curve, it normally runs from the it normally have a negative aspect. It normally runs from the Y, but not touches the Y axis to the X, but doesn't touch the X axis. That is why we say the curve shows the graphical relation between the quantity demanded and the price of the commodity. And we are saying a demand curve has a negative slope. It slopes downward from the left to right, showing that as the price of the commodity for demand increases, the inverse relationship between the price of a commodity and the quantity demanded, what is being normally referred to the law of demand. And that is very straight. And you can be able to see it. And I was able to explain to you there. And the more, when you look on when the price is at 65, can you be able to look on the demand? The demand is too high compared to when the price of a commodity is at 115 shillings. You can see the demand is too low. That is the differences in the analysis of the law of demand. And when you look on the law of demand in economics, you just need to be able to understand it in a very simple way, because it is just a fundamental principle of economics that will be able to state that as the higher the price, the consumer will demand a lower quantity of a good. So that is why we are saying the demand is basically derived from the law of diminishing marginal utility and the fact that the consumers use the economic goods to satisfy their most urgent needs. When you go to when you look on these aspects of the law of demand, we are saying that if we can be able to hold other factors constant, the price and the quantity demand of any good and service are inversely related to each other. And that is what I was explaining here. Is the price of the commodity, when you look on the price when it is at 65, the demand is so high compared to when it's at 150. That graph is perfectly illustrating what the ceteris paribus, when we talk about, when we hold all the factors constant, we are saying the lower the price of the commodity, the greater the quantity demanded by the individual and vice versa. So what are some of the exemptions which we are putting in place for this? We are saying there are some demand curve that slopes upwards from left to right, showing that as the price of our product rises more is demanded and vice versa. This type of demand curve is known as regressive exemption or abnormal demand curve, and occurs in the following situations. One, where we are saying where there is a fear of a more drastic price changes in the future, this will cause, or this causes consumers to increase their quantity demanded to avoid paying a higher price in the future. This situation is often found in the stock exchange, where there is often an increase in the demand of shares of a company if its shares are expected to increase. In case of a given goods, this refers to basic foodstuffs that substitute a high proportion of the budget of low-income families. When the price of a given good rises, the proportion of the total income of the individual who consumes these given foods or goods rises, and since such consumers are worse off of the real terms, they can no longer afford to consume other more expensive commodities like meat and fruits. To make up for the goods they can no longer afford to buy, they are more likely to purchase more basic foodstuffs. Conversely, when the price of basic foodstuff falls, they become better off in real terms and are likely to buy more or relatively more expensive foodstuffs and less basic foodstuffs. When I look on today, when you go to the supermarkets, you are finding that some products are having some crazy prices. I remember during the time, for example, nikianza maisha, you could be able to go to a supermarket with 4,000 and do a very wonderful shopping. Today, if you go to a supermarket with 10,000, you just buy basic things, right? Basics, without even looking for any extraordinary or any leisure thing for your children. 10,000 is just a normal thing nowadays in these supermarkets. So it means that we are looking on sometimes we normally shift to survival mode compared to lifestyle, and that is, I think, where Kenyans are right now. Now, when you look on the goods of ostentation, which are fraudulent goods, these are commodities whose price falls in the upper price ranges and that have a snob appeal. The wealthy are usually concerned about status, believing that only goods at high prices are worth buying and what the effect of distinguishing them from the other consumers. When you look on, even when you're going to be buying the clothes, and then you ended at a certain outlet and someone is telling you, that dress costs 800. Right? Someone like Catherine may say, I will not be able to buy that. That is very cheap. When it is cheap, the material might not be good. But we sometimes we may tend to focus on, rather than looking on the quality of the product, we may tend to be looking on how much is that product being sold. And if, for example, rather than analyzing the concept of the product might be the same at certain areas, with the same specs, but that product, when it is being sold, we have to be looking on locality. That is the key. The location of where this product is being sold, it matters a lot. We might be buying nyanya, right, from Mutugo. One costing 5. When it goes to Karen, you'll be able to find one nyanya is 20. It's the same tomato. So that is the difference. We have to be looking on but basically it depends on the level of income, and that is what matters in these grounds. Now, the consumers often, in making comparisons between similar products with different price, opts for relatively more expensive product, believing it to be better. As price increases, demand increases. This is referred to the Sonop effect. If, for example, the demand increases and the price continue increasing, examples of goods ostentation are expensive perfume, right? And these are the things: perfume, jewelries, cars, clothes, etc. And that is what I was able to give Sonobe effect in terms of analysis of the clothes, or and the analysis of things that we seem to be, they are more of luxury. So the demand will be positively sloping, and as indicated there. You can see now it will not be sloping downward when we are analyzing the Sonobe effect. It will be now looking like running from the origin, because more it tends like a supply curve because it is running from the origin. But the Sonobe effect will be making us understand the price of the commodity might be increasing, and this increase will be tending to the demand is increased, the price also will be able to increase, and so on and so forth. Now, that is a positively sloped demand curves. Now, the determinants of demand, they are very important, and it will be enabling us understand when the government is lying to you. So the demand of a product can be considered from the standpoint of either individual demand or market demand. So the demand for any commodity can be considered from 2 points of view. So when someone is standing there and is telling you that the reason as to why the standards of living are keeping on increasing, and that is why we cannot be able to push on the Mama Boga and the so on, the slogans which were being used under the political arena. You'll be able to understand that all of the information which you are getting, they are all lies. But we cannot be able to educate the voters because sometimes people normally tend to make the decision on based on how they feel. And in this concept, it is very important. That is why we need to sensitize about during the election. People need to be informed about what is right and what is wrong. And in this case, it is very important for us to be knowing when are we supposed to be making a certain move and when are we not supposed to. The most important aspect is when the government is able to analyze to you that the reason as to why the things are looking the way they are is because there is no any government which is empty. By the way, even if we can be able to loot today 2 billion Kenya shillings from the government, tomorrow those coffers will be having 2 billion because the taxes are being collected in every second. Every time you are going to be buying a product, there is indirect taxes which are already being collected on a daily basis, and therefore mostly important aspect of the government is how are they going to be analyzing the aspect of spending. How are we going to be spending the money that we are collecting from the citizens? And that is why when you look at it in long run, you'll be able to find the same government officials going outside in a given financial year. Someone spending 1 or 4 billion to travel across the world. I will be able to buy an idea of someone like Kagame, who normally stays in his country for long periods, doing his analysis from his country, doing his communication from there. If it's any financial institution, as a president, you can be able to call a World Bank. You don't need just to go to China, for instance, to look for money. You can just be able to get the money from the financial lenders. Why are you looking for it? Sometimes when you are looking for these financial support, sometimes we have to be analyzing what are we going to be doing with the money, so that we can be able to level the issues regarding to the standards of living and cushioning the citizens from the effects which we are experiencing today. There are people right now, you can be getting a salary of 200,000 shillings, but at the end of the day you are staying an average life. And then you will be able to ask how much, what is enough, as earlier on as a slogan which was asked somewhere. What is the meaning of enough? And you will be able to find, you cannot be able to get the answer. What is enough for you? Now, the determinants of the demand, some people will be able to tell us that the reason as to why the cost of living has been increasing is because the war in Russia. But I normally tend, and I normally use my brain, and I think that in Africa, we normally have many countries who today we cannot have good stories because of this problem with my Zoom. But let me just say this. we normally have good countries, or we normally have many countries in Africa who have fuel right now. Let us not look on what is happening from other globes. Let us look on our continent. You'll be able to understand that in Africa we have enough, and that is what the war in Libya took place. In that regard, the reason as to why we don't develop as Africa is because we don't want to support one of our own. We don't want to go to Nigeria, right? Strike a deal for fuel with them, right? And they channel those fuel, by the way, tutachimba tu tuweke pipes kutoka Nigeria to Kenya, supplying the fuel to other countries, right, who are in the same state as Kenya, right? We are not even able to support the mineral resources which are existing in Congo, in Southern Sudan, in Sudan, and in Ethiopia, for instance. We are not supporting what is happening in Tanzania, right? Because we don't trust ourselves. We don't want to go to South Africa and then we look on what can we be able to get. The African continent is fully of the resources, but we don't trust our own. We just need an easy way to escape from the realities, and that is what and the reason as to why we are experiencing the challenges we are facing today. Now, the demand for any commodity can be considered from 2 points of view. Individual demand is the amount the individual is willing and able to buy at a given price and over a given period of time. Factors affecting individual demand are the price of products, that is one, the price of other related goods, consumer income, consumer tastes and preferences, future expectation in price changes, advertising, other factors such as subsidies, climatic changes, inflation, among others. The price of the product, when deciding whether or not to buy a particular product, an individual will compare the price of the product and the amount of utility or satisfaction expected to be received from the product. If the price is considered worth the anticipated utility, the anticipated utility, the individual will buy the product, and if not, will not buy. A decrease in the price of the product will probably increase individuals' demand for it, since the amount of utility obtained is likely to be worth the lower price. I remember there is a time, Sarit, the supermarket there, I think it was Carrefour or it was ShopRite. I think there was a supermarket which was called ShopRite, or I don't know. There was a supermarket there back then, and they used to sell the product at half the other supermarkets. So you could go there, find someone akona trolley amesukuma all the kind of beers. Mtu ameweka trolley kama 2 ameenda hapo. Mtu ameenda pale na trolley kama 3 ameenda kusukuma buy all the household products, right? But it means that as the price of the commodities comes down, and that is what the government need to understand, right? As we change the rates of taxation from 16 to 12%, and if, for example, we can be able to eliminate some taxes from the production products, it means the government can be able to get more revenue because more players will be coming in. Rosbella will be able to open a kiwanda somewhere, a farm somewhere. It will be able to manufacture a given product, right? It will be able to employ these people who are called employed. Those are the things that I think we are supposed to be sinking in, understanding that as the more we continue keeping more taxes, there are people who are normally called accountants who will keep on fighting the government forever. These are the people who will provide the solution to the government as the time passes by, and they will be able to exploit the loopholes which are in existence. And that being said and done, regardless of whether they are going to be taking these people, as I can be able to see at wanawapeleka wanaanza kutembelelea biashara, the same concepts in which these people learned in school, because it's a very difficult thing. Whatever they learn, they can be able to manipulate those books in whatever nature. And that is what we can be able to see. The most important aspect and how the government can be able to get the revenue is through the reduction of the taxes imposed on the citizens. That is the difference. And if, for example, we can be able to reduce those taxes, and we look on what are we financing with the revenue which we are collecting and we are borrowing, then it means the more consumption is going to be witnessed, the more people are going to be coming in and consume the product. Kuna watu sasa wanakaa Nairobi but wanatumiwa mahindi kutoka nyumbani, right? Huyu mtu ataiba unga lini ape serikali pesa? na ataenda kwa kisiagi yeye asiage mahindi yake, hakuna mahali amelipa tax. You see that the only person mwenye amelipa tax hapo ni mwenye kisiagi, mwenye analipa power. But kuna watu you'll be able to find that they are not going to be the key players, right, in whatever nature we want to achieve. Those are the things that we need to converse and understand. The prices of the commodities will be increased due to the more taxes which are going to be imposed, and then specific products, if they have the substitutes, the Kenyans are not going to be consuming those products. Now, that being said and done, we are saying number 2 here, when you look on the price of the related goods, and is how we have articulated up there, we are saying the demand for all goods is interrelated in that they are competing for consumers' limited income. 2 peculiar interrelationship can be substitute goods such as tea and coffee, butter and margarine, beef and mutton, a bus ride and matatu ride, a mango and orange, CDs and cassettes. So 2 goods, X and Y, are said to be substitute. If a rise in the price of one commodity, say Y, lead to a rise in the demand of the commodity X. If the price of tea increases, consumers will find coffee, right? Will find coffee relatively cheaper to tea. As a result, demand for coffee increases. Substitute a commodity that can be used in place of other goods. This phenomenon will be able to be explained down here, and here is what we are discussing about that concept here. And you see how it is. The price of tea increases, right? What is happening to the quantity of the coffee, right? Will be able to shift upward. And that is why we are saying that the complement goods such as shoe and polish, pen and inkers, and petrol, computers and softwares, bread and margarine, hamburgers and chips, tapes and tape recorders, the demand for some commodity can also be affected by changes in prices, right? Can be affected by the change in prices of the complementary. If a rise in the price of one good, say A, leads to the fall in the demand of another good, B. Complementary, as we have said, the complementary goods are usually jointly demanded, in the sense that the use of one requires or is enhanced by the use of the other. This is basically illustrated the relationship between the complementary goods graphically. For example, if the price of car is lower, demand for petrol increases, becomes more because more cars will be bought, stock demanded. So the curve shows the relationship between the price of a car and quantity demanded for petrol. If the price of car fall from P2 to P1, the quantity demanded for petrol will be able to increase from Q1 to Q2. That is the consumption. And it is very important. These are things which I call them logics, right? Today we are seeing how expensive it is to buy cars. And that is why we are going to be importing cars through the black market. That is the thing that normally happens. People may tend to choose whatever nature, because at the end of the day, we have to survive. We are not going to be pleasants of the government. So the changes in the disposable real income, and we are saying, before also we log out and we come again, an individual's level of income has an important effect of the level of demand for the most products. If income increases, demand for the better quality goods and services increases. The relationship, however, depends on the type. We'll be able to depend on the type of the goods and levels of consumers' income. There are 3 types of goods. We normally have normal goods, not goods. Those are the normal goods. These are goods whose demand increases, income increases, right? The demand for normal goods increases continuously with increase in income. It tends to become gently as people reach the desired level of satisfaction, right? We'll be able to discuss this as we close now. Once we join again, I'll be able to finalize this, so that, because today you have to join the videos, you can see they are not, the videos, they got saturated. So I have to finish early to work on the videos.